Last time we left Joey Belladonna riding high off his 1995 solo debut, a flawed but genuine record that at least proved the guy was still metal through and through. So naturally, you'd think the follow-up would build on that, sharpen the songwriting, tighten up the band, maybe even get a little heavier. Instead, in 1998, Joey handed us Spells of Fear, an album so rushed, so disconnected that even he's basically disowned it. Today we're getting into why this record has a reputation as one of the messiest chapters in his entire career. Let's start with how things were actually made because it explains almost everything wrong with it. Joey had just picked up some new recording gear, and instead of pulling together a band to write and rehearse together like a normal album, he teamed up with a guitarist he didn't even personally know, and I mean that literally. The whole thing was done through the mail. The collaborator would track instrumentals and physically mail the tapes to Joey would lay down vocals and drums over the top using his home setup, then mail the finished tracks back to get mixed. That's it. That was a process. No jam sessions, full of musicians bouncing ideas off each other, just tapes going back and forth in the mail like a long-distance pen pal project. Except the pen pals were trying to make a thrash metal record. Joey himself called it a wicked quick project, and it moved so fast that they landed a record deal before the two of them ever met face to face. Let that sink in for a second. An entire album, contract and all, built on a relationship that existed purely through the postal service. And you can hear it. Critics and fans landed in the same place in this one. It's stepped down, a steep one. Outlets like Encyclopedia Metallum and Rate Your Music didn't hold back. Words like train wreck got thrown around a lot. The production felt thin and unpolished. Songwriting lacked anything close to a hook. No big choruses, no riffs that stuck with you after the album ended. And stylistically, it tried to plant a flag somewhere it just didn't belong. Because here's the thing about the late 90s. It wasn't just Joey struggling to figure out where he fit. This was the era where mid-tempo groove metal and alternative rock had basically taken over, and legacy thrash guys everywhere were scrambling to adapt. Ironically, even the Anthrax lineup Joey got replaced was going through the same identity crisis with John Bush around the same time. So Spells of Fear tried to chase that groove metal wave, and it shows. Critics specifically called out sections that leaned so hard into the style of the era. For example, the song Don't Pin Me Down sounds very similar to Pantera's A New Level. And that's the core problem right there. Joey's voice is a soaring, high-register tenor built for classic thrash anthems. Bolting that onto down-tuned, bleak, groove-driven riffs just doesn't work. It's like putting a race car engine into a tractor. Both are fine machines, they're just not built for each other. On top of the style mismatch, the actual sound of the record took a beating too. The guitar tone got dinged for being way too light. It was thin, more basic rock than crushing metal, and without one producer in one room actually gluing the mailed-in instrumental tapes to Joey's home vocal tracks, the final mix ended up flat and muddy. Tracks like Face You and Lost Control got singled out as feeling like a loose pile of riffs thrown together rather than actual songs. Critics compared it to an unfocused jam session and never got properly edited down into something cohesive. When you add all that up, you get an album that's missing one thing that made Joey's early work fun in the first place, that sense of thrash fun, that pit-starting energy. Instead, it just feels isolated. It feels corporate almost, like a product built by mail instead of a band playing music together. And the ending to the story is about as anticlimactic as the album's creation. Joey talked about how the whole business side of the era felt hollow, how a deal came together before he even met his collaborator in person, and then, in his words, everybody was here and gone. The label and the whole project basically dissolved right after release. No momentum, no follow-through, just done. Even Joey himself doesn't pretend this one was some misunderstood artistic statement. He's been pretty candid about it in hindsight. He'll defend the fact that he kept working and kept putting out music after getting blindsided by the Anthrax firing, and that's fair, credit where it's due. But he's also admitted that drifting away from his natural thrash roots onto that confused, glazed over, alternative sound of the late 90s just wasn't the right move for a voice like his. At the end of the day, he treated Spells of Fear as a stopgap, something to keep himself busy and creative during the wilderness years, before eventually shifting his focus back toward better songwriting on demo material he put out years later in the early 2000s. So that spells of fear, a mailed-in, trend-chasing misfire that even its own creators mostly moved past, is proof that sometimes the fastest way to make a record isn't the best way, and that trying to fit a classic thrash voice into a sound built for a completely different era just doesn't land. But we're not done catching up with everyone from Anthrax orbit during this stretch. Next up, we're heading back to the main Anthrax timeline to check in on S.O.D. and the record Bigger Than the Devil. So if you want to see how that side of the story unfolds, make sure you're subscribed, because there's a lot more to come. I know this was a short video, but there really wasn't much to say about this album because it just wasn't that good. But in the meantime, check out the playlist. It has all the other videos in the Anthrax Deep Dive series. So I'm going to be doing all of them, and I'm following up with S.O.D. And then after that, I believe it's We've Come For You All. So that's to come. Like, subscribe. See you in the next one.